Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 13. As I've said in the last video, we will get to work on building our refinery today, but of course, that is not enough work to take up a whole episode, so we will also do other stuff. These extra efforts will mostly concern further town developments, like the expansion of the garbage collection coverage, since that's what turned out to be the source of our spikes in the death statistics recently. We will also spend some time trying to fill in the central courtyard in the first housing neighborhood in the city, since that big red star monument is a bit lonely, sitting alone in that big empty field. We will also finish building the second construction office today, so we will also spend some time trying to come up with a decent assortment of new vehicles we can buy to fill it up. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. As I've said in the intro, we will need to improve the town's garbage collection system a little, and since it's such an important job, I decided to get it done before we do anything else. For a little while, I blamed a momentary hiccup in the food supply for that big death spike a couple episodes ago. As it turns out, it was pollution. Obviously, it was caused by garbage overflow. I always just kept an eye on the maintenance service building, and if we had small garbage trucks sitting idle, that was good enough for me. Well, as it turns out, it's not good enough. To help out, we do two things. Place down extra collection points, so we can cover buildings that are not currently serviced by one of them, and we will also build a second maintenance office, so we can expand the collection capacity. I didn't even bother to give these collection points a gravel footpath, just a dirt one, so they get built faster. As usual, I like to play a little bit more after I've finished the recordings, just to see what we can expect for the following episode, and the next death spike happened about a year from now. Still, I didn't want to risk it, so I tried to rush these constructions through as fast as possible. I think the second maintenance office could fit in nicely next to the prison. It's the edge of town, so we don't need to be too picky about aesthetics. Just to make sure we are prepared for any eventuality, we should also add a free maintenance parking lot, and give the garbage collection fleet 3 more trucks to work with. You know, just in case. Alright. Heart attacks should occur more rarely now. Let's do the same for strokes. Speaking of health research, I decided to knock out all of the preventative stuff first, and only then worry about the population boosting study. I suppose they go hand in hand anyway. There is not much point in making more babies if we can't keep them alive. I also wanted to finish upgrading these footpaths in particular, so the outermost housing blocks are able to reach the school. Well, now that I am fairly satisfied with the state of the town, we can get started on the oil refinery. First, these dirt roads need to go. They are in the way. Sadly, this also means that the construction will progress more slowly, but it's all set to be low priority anyway, so I doubt it makes a big difference. Before we place the main plant, we need a way to drop off people. Since we are nowhere near having a railroad yet, we will need to rely on buses for a while, so that's the first thing we placed. Once that's sorted, we can place the actual refinery. One out of 3 fire prevention tech is done, so we moved on to the next. And we just unlocked the prefab residential building constructions. It's only step 1. I would rather wait until we get the good ones, with a housing quality that goes above 90%. Next, for the refinery, we need a place to store the outputs. One of each should be fine. I thought about maybe building a big array of smaller tanks, just for the looks, but decided against it. 2 big ones will still look industrial enough. With that sorted, let's think a bit further into the future. I'm of course talking about the railroad connections. We need 2 of them to be exact. This place is far enough away from the town to justify giving it a rail service, so we need a passenger station. We just need to make sure it can reach the refinery, as well as the fire station. I am really hoping to start using firefighting helicopters in 4 or 5 episodes from now, but we need to go through a couple more research projects before we get there. And the border highway is almost fully upgraded. At this point, we might as well just give all the remaining segments high priority, and get it over with. Now comes the railroad connection to the main line. I didn't want to give more traffic to the one going to the town. I expect that to be quite busy in the future. So we should build another one, leaving enough space between them for at least 1, maybe 2 one-way signal blocks. That looks like enough room for at least 1, which should be okay. Next up, we need to get to the other side of the main road, preferably without using a level crossing. Also, we should move the passenger station, so we can connect up both stations without going over any more roads. Now that we have both ends of the overpass more or less set down, we can try to find a place to build up the hills around the road. Obviously, we will do so by using dirt roads around the main one, so we can avoid terrain clipping issues. Uh-oh, electricity issues. We are out of money. Nothing a bit more foreign aid won't fix. Instead of getting a whole new loan, I decided to just replace the one we already had, leaving us with the same amount of interest, but with 300,000 rubles of spending money. For some reason, this place really didn't want to cooperate with building parallel bridges. I tried to build them on either side, tried to move them around, but nothing helped. The second bridge always tried to do wonky stuff. In the end, I just ended up building them with a bit of a gap in between. It get the same result, and one might say that it looks a bit more interesting too. As usual, building the ramp involved using the proximity snapping, so the final tracks are more flush with the terrain. And we just do the same thing on the other side. This fire was a bit scary. The truck arriving on the scene wasn't enough to keep the flames at bay, and it took a couple more busloads of workers to make the progress halt, and even more to make it go in reverse. This did end up costing us quite a bit of wear and tear on that warehouse. It seems the fire stopped progressing, but it's still eating away at the building condition, which is not exactly a good thing to say the least. And the fire was finally put out. Can't wait to have helicopters, and stop relying on firefighters altogether. Well, I think this is pretty much all we need in terms of tracks for the refinery. Well, maybe I will give the liquid loading station access to both platforms, so we can deal with both fuel and bitumen simultaneously. But for now, this is perfectly adequate. For now, I didn't put back the service roads, I just set everything I could find up to medium priority, and then left it at that. And it seems the border highway is done upgrading. About time. And while we weren't looking, the second construction office got built. Before I started filling it up with vehicles, I also gave it the assignment for materials. The big customs house was already super busy, so I directed it to the other one. As for vehicles, I also decided to split things up a little bit. The bulldozers, for example, they can go into the new one. But before I send them over, we can fit more of them in, so I also ordered 2 more for good measure. We definitely need more concrete mixers, so got a couple of the best one available. It wouldn't hurt to speed up the component deliveries either, so I got a handful of covered hull trucks to replace the old Skoda we've been using. And just to keep all this rolling, we had to take out another loan. Let's hope it's enough to finish building the refinery. Since we had 4 bulldozers now, I also bought 2 more excavators in the older office. Now, we didn't have any open hull trucks in the new one. I wasn't sure if the Moz trucks could carry what we needed them to carry, namely the bulldozers, excavators, and other machinery, so I had to buy one to test it. We only had the covered hull version in the Republic at the time. We are slowly making progress in the medical university. The next one in line was the CPR study. For road works, I also bought a second pair of paver and roller, so we can pave more than one road at a time with them. After the new open hull trucks arrived, we could check what they could carry, and they are more than capable of doing what we need. They could even fit a 45 meters tall crane if necessary. Nice, we can get started on the last firefighting research. Seeing all that traffic at the border, I had to make sure the construction office assignments were set correctly, splitting the load between the 2 customs houses. I even went ahead and sent both of the dumper parking lots to the other one, so we can split the load even more. Alright, we can build sturdy prefab buildings now. But we still need to research the high quality ones, but that's in the party HQ. For the next technical project, we went with the gas power plant. At this point, I was a bit worried about the harvesters still not being repaired. They keep leaving for the fields, and the repair trucks make the journey for nothing. One of the bad things about not using seasons, I guess. To compensate, I told the farm to stop working the fields for a little bit, wait for the repairs to finish, and then they can get back to work. For this small moment, I decided to risk using the fast forwarding a little, so we can knock this one out quickly. Here, I did try to do a bit of list organization in the construction offices. We can push vehicles to the end of the list by sending them into another building, and then sending them back right away. I will mess around with this for a minute, and give up on it, since the parking lots aren't full yet. I suppose we should take a look at the various monuments we placed in the last episode. Some of them should have the materials delivered already, and in those cases we can just let workers in, instead of waiting for the buses to deliver them. Okay, CPR training is done. Next up, the virology and vaccination arm of the research tree. With the monument done, we can get rid of the dirt footpath, since we only needed it for the construction itself. Now, about this place. I have some ideas I'd like to try out. We have those flower beds, right? And they come in different shapes and sizes. Since they have no collision boxes, we can build neat shapes out of them if we want. Ultimately, I landed on a small cross shape, with a big circle in the middle, and small squares at the end of the long pieces. And I even downloaded the only bench assets I could find on the workshop. Sadly, they require construction, but at least they don't have collision boxes, so that's something I suppose. And no, I will not dig into the mod files to get rid of the material requirements. People would just keep asking over and over and over again in the comments how to do it, so to save myself some headache of constantly repeating myself, I'll use them as they are. Here's a small trick I came up with. This small strip of land between the hospital and the flower beds is too small for the grass rejuvenation tool. But, we can use footpaths to bring back some greenery. We just place the path, demolish it, and it will restore the grass once the mud dries up. I think we can place some more benches. It will make placing the construction footpaths a bit cumbersome, but the end result should be worth it. Next, we need to set up the footpaths for building the benches. They are packed together so tightly, it should be quite a challenge. Okay, now we know that it's possible to do all four in a corner. Let's try to do it for all of them. There we go. We can do all at once. All that's left is to grab this whole thing, copy it, and place 3 more in the remaining corners of the plaza. I tried to copy the footpaths too, but they didn't want to cooperate. But at least the majority of the actual structures will survive the transition, so we don't need to do everything all over again. Only one of the benches failed to make it through all that. there will be a couple benches where I will give up on the connections, and we'll just leave them to be built after everything else is done. Only need to revisit 4 of them. Not too bad for such a densely packed thing. And we can also get started on the second stage of the vaccine development. If I got it right, we will only need to redo the last research, which is only active until the next epidemic, after which we will need to do it again. How about we do that grass restoration in these small places too, before we replant the trees? They are too small for the soil rejuvenation tool, so this is the only way to fill them up with grass again. I am kind of glad I stumbled onto this little trick. It always bothered me that I couldn't replant small areas with grass, but this one is a good way to do just that. And with the last fire safety technology done, we can move on to the one that allows us to build high-quality prefab housing. Ah, there we go. This is what we get for using that footpath trick. Nice greenery in small places. We still can't fit any trees at the front of the hospital, but the side can accommodate them just fine. we already have a couple benches finished. Nice. And I think this is where we will leave it for today. I think the next episode might include a couple time lapses, if I can't find anything better to do. I want to make sure we finish building the refinery as soon as our current capacity allows, and start making and exporting both fuel and bitumen. We are now 4 million in debt, so the sooner we start exporting those two, the better we will be situated for the future. If all goes well, the money we make off them will be enough to finance our railroad construction, but I haven't tested that yet, so it remains to be seen. But given that our most expensive import is fuel, I am quite hopeful that we can start building our railroad in the near future. We can also start thinking about building some nice, high-quality housing developments. The last research into those are underway already. I do not want to replace the existing houses, they are quite nice, but I won't say no to some prefab housing blocks. I think a couple of them would look kind of nice next to the delta of that smaller river that runs between the town and the farms. That place is perfect for some nice riverfront apartments. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.